I am live. Okay, cool. I'm going to do some editing with this because I don't want this part here to be shown. Welcome to the re-betaed wrestling show here on the Else Nerds. Excuse me. This is coming after a while. I took, a break from some other, from doing it because, work got busy. When you work retail, it gets hard to, especially in the fourth quarter, it gets hard to not necessarily have the time to watch the shows, but to record about the shows. But that being said, I promised on Thursday's show that I was going to do a live, talking about wrestling and all that. And that is exactly what I'm going to do. Because wrestling had probably its biggest week in all of sports entertainment this past weekend. And actually it started off a week ago today when I'm recording this on the 14th. It's the 14th now, not when this happened. And that was NXT TakeOver New Orleans. Now, this is the picture from the first match right here that you're seeing if you're watching the video. I'm going to put out the audio later of the opening match. This by far, without a shadow of a doubt, was my favorite pay-per-view of this year. And I'm counting this as a pay-per-view because I feel like it does technically count as a pay-per-view. Because it's basically I figure anything that's big that goes onto the WWE network as a special, that is essentially a pay-per-view, using the air quotes there. But we start off here with the big match. And also, I'm going to point out here, I'm saying this is a big card. They had literally 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 matches. That's it. But all of the matches were so great. If you look at Wrestling Observer Newsletter's Dave Meltzer, he gave 2 matches out of here 5 out of 5 stars. I would agree with him on that, and I would add a couple of the others for the stories that they told. I enjoyed this whole card but I'm gonna start off with the first match, the opening match, the match that you saw the picture of there. That is the NXT North American Championship, in being crowned, the first NXT North American champion being crowned in a 6-man ladder match, which featured Adam Cole, Ricochet, the debuting Ricochet, I will add, Killian Dane, the returning EC3. People will know him from before with the original NXT startup, that it was a reality show that was horrible. EC3 was actually in there as known as Derek Bateman. Lars Sullivan and Velveteen Dream, the standout from the last Tough Enough that happened. The spot that I showed you in the picture here, if I go back to the story mode, that is just one of the insane moments. What you're not seeing there, this is coming from WWE's shots or WWE's website, but that right there is Ricochet. That gentleman right there in the red tights that is upside down is Ricochet. He is doing a backflip off of that ladder, that was being pushed by the big guy right there, Lars Sullivan. That is a move that I have never really seen done before. I think the big reason why I loved this card was because this was WWE doing the indies, doing an indie show and killing it. The winner of the match, because this match had high spots all over the place. I didn't know what was going to happen, who was going to win, but the winner of the match was Adam Cole, baby. I think it's that how he does it, or is it that? I don't know. The next match, and honestly, the weakest match, but I feel like you sort of need to have a weak match on here, and it was the NXT Women's Championship match, with Shayna Baszler defeating the champion Ember Moon to win the NXT World Women's title. Now, this was interesting because you sometimes you can predict these when it comes to the a takeover event, because this is very much the very much WWE's farm system. So this is the top of their young guys, they're young up and comers, or the people from the indies, and this is WWE's way of going, okay, without really risking too much, are they worth, can they work the WWE style? Can they give us more to be good, to do good? And so I had a feeling that this was going to lead to some things that I will talk about in a little bit. But Shayna Baszler defeated Ember Moon, like I said. And actually, it was an interesting end because Ember Moon never tapped. I feel like things going on down the road, this could be revisited. And I hope it gets revisited because they put on classic matches. Shayna Baszler still is very green. I mean, I think she's only I'm wearing a green shirt. I think she's only been in the wrestling business for like 3 years now. Like, she's a former MMA fighter. A lot of people, when the rumors were of Ronda Rousey coming to WWE, they were saying, oh, it's going to be the 4 horsewomen of MMA versus the 4 horsewomen of WWE and stuff like that. But I don't know. I felt like it was an interesting, an interesting fight, but definitely the weakest, just because, not because it was bad, but because everyone brought their A game. Speaking of bringing the A game, the NXT Tag Team Championships were defended in a triple threat match, with the Undisputed Era, defending the titles against Roderick Strong and Pete Dunne and the Authors of Pain. This was actually leading up from the NXT event that happened the Wednesday before, where it was supposed to be the Authors of Pain and Roderick Strong and Pete Dunne facing off against each other, the two teams there, to crown the 2018 Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic. And they get the big trophy with Dusty's boots under there. And Undisputed Era decided, hey, we're going to run in and stop this because we don't want to defend. And here, the interesting thing with this is Adam Cole was in this match as well. And Adam Cole was in there because blanking on his name. What is his? Kyle Fish. Yeah, Kyle Fish is injured. He has a torn ACL. And so this was the Undisputed Era's attempt of getting the tag team match called off, because the choices were either Kyle Fish come in, and I think his name's not Kyle Fish. Whatever. Fish, defend his title with his partner O'Reilly. Or Adam Cole do double duty with the Freebird rule, which, for those of you guys who don't know what the Freebird rule is, in a tag team group of 3 people, you only need 2 of the 3 to defend the title. So you could get the New Day is this example. You see, which there are fun code behind me right there, where you see 2 of them defend the title at a time, but if they were defending week after week, it could be 2 other people. So that's what they were using here. The match was brilliant. So many spots. Adam Cole was taken out early because he had just defended, just won, like 20 minutes ago, if that. Because I don't think the NXT Women's Championship match went that long. But then we saw the tides a shift, and we saw Roderick Strong, blindside his partner, blindside Authors of Pain, and join the Undisputed Era. Broke up the pin count on his partner Pete Dunne, who is the UK champion, and just backstabbed him. I think he hit End of Heartbreak on him, and then put over the other guy, and they're all like, you see Undisputed Era go, wait, what? And he takes off the armband on Adam Cole, baby, and put it on himself, and then does the logo thing of that, which I'm doing very horribly because of this mic stand. But doing their hand gesture with making a U with one hand and an E with the other. But yeah, it was a solid match. I'd put it sort of right there with the NXT Women's Championship as worst match of the night. But again, that's not saying much because, to do the 5-star rankings right now, with the matches we had, NXT North American Championship ladder match, 5 stars. NXT Women's Championship, 4.5 stars. Same thing with the NXT Tag Team Championship match, 4.5 stars. Then we get to the big title, the NXT Championship match with Andrade Cien Almas defending his title against Aleister Black. Now, I went into this much like I went into the last 5-star match that Dave Meltzer gave with Andrade versus Johnny Gargano, thinking, okay, this is going to be, when Andrade drops it and gets called up. Because that's typically what happens a lot of the times. You get, when titles get dropped in NXT, then the person gets called up to the main roster. And hopefully doesn't wade around through mid-card hell for some of these guys, because a lot of these guys and gals are just super talented. But the NXT Championship match was amazing. Seeing Aleister Black have every answer for Selena Vega, Andrade Almas's manager, it was just fantastic. Definitely 4.5, if not 5-star match right there. And yeah, Aleister Black is the new NXT champion. Good on him. The final match, which was an unsanctioned match, and they did this very much in the older style. Like, I remember hearing other people talk about this, that they did this in the older style of, like, basically they had a 4-match show with the championships. And then this was after, with it being unsanctioned. But this was Tommaso Ciampa versus Johnny Gargano, with if Johnny Gargano beat Tommaso Ciampa, then he gets rehired by NXT. Now this, I honestly thought, full on, like with my predictions by myself, because that's the type of person I am. I'm like, okay, I think I could see where they're going here. I thought for sure Tommaso Ciampa was going to beat Johnny Gargano. And, it was cool to see this match. Like, we're looking through some of the pictures here, where you got Tommaso Ciampa coming out to no music, just looking so fed up with everyone. Like, and everyone in there is holding Johnny Gargano's, you can see it right there on his tights, the symbol, like that, his little character that he's created. And right there, that was a moment that was just so brutal. Tommaso Ciampa had pulled up the mat earlier on in the match, and and I'm jumping around a little bit here because I'm sliding through the pictures, looking at this stuff, and I kept thinking, okay, this is where Ciampa's gonna, body slam him. This is where it's just gonna happen, and ooh, it's gonna look bad. It's gonna be bad. And we saw, and nothing happened. I'm like, okay, false flag. And they're going around. They're doing, a lot of these other things, and I keep thinking, okay, they're gonna come back to that at some point, and I mean, they're doing such wonderful storytelling because for those of you guys who don't know, Ciampa and Gargano, they've met and wrestled on the indies. They came in at NXT around the same time. They really met and had great matches during the Cruiserweight Classic, and then they formed the tag team of DIY. Well, it was NXT Takeover Chicago last year, I believe, where they lost a triple threat ladder match for the tag team titles. Or no, maybe it was just a tag team ladder match. I don't remember if it was triple threat or not. I know Authors of Pain were in there, and it's Authors of Pain, I believe, retained the titles in there. And then there was the brutal attack that Ciampa had on Joey, Johnny, and which was interesting because you realize you learn in the match that he actually tore his ACL, which is why you see him in the leg brace right there, and you see Johnny come back, rebrands himself as Johnny Wrestling, and all that, getting back into the singles thing here. And it was such a brutal match. And it was the perfect match for the storytelling. The storytelling that they were doing. This match actually went pretty long. I think it went about 30, 40 minutes. And they were just telling this tremendous story. At one point you see them get to the end of the match, and the referee's only, as I said a couple times, he's only there to count the three. But it also showed what happened. Johnny Gargano won. But there's a moment, it's a little bit after here, where they're both sitting down, and you're like, okay, they've given everything here. They did callbacks to the Cruiserweight Classic, to their time in DIY, just doing great. I mean, the level of storytelling here was amazing. It definitely deserved the 5 stars by one Mr. Dave Meltzer from the Wrestling Observer newsletter. And this is also what I will add to that. This is the reason why I tend to like the takeovers more than the big pay-per-views that they go before. Because now we're going to talk WrestleMania. Now WrestleMania should be the card where I go, this is the biggest, the best matchup ever and stuff. And it was just okay. In all honesty. The pre-show had a great match. I loved the pre-show. They had the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal as a kickoff match, where you saw the return of Bray Wyatt helping Woken Matt Hardy win. That was cool just because to see Bray Wyatt, and for a second, myself included, everyone was like, wait, what? So he's in the match? And then they ring the bell and we're like, wait, oh yeah, because he didn't start the match. Okay, I get it. They're doing this like Brother Nero sort of deal where, Bray Wyatt's now a member of the Woken universe or whatever. But still really, really cool. The Cruiserweight Championship match, this was the culmination of the Cruiserweight title tournament that they started in January. basically, and hopefully to distance themselves as far away as they can from the former cruiserweight champion, one Enzo Amore, who got himself into some hot water. If you do not know what happened, yeah, I loved him as a wrestler. I loved him as a character and all that stuff. But then hearing about that, I'm like, yeah, WWE did the right call there. But you had Cedric Alexander versus Mustafa Ali, as they were saying, the heart and the soul of the cruiserweight division. This match, oh my gosh, it was good. The costumes, the outfits were amazing. I loved the creativity behind Mustafa Ali's Sub-Zero inspired outfit. Even with it had this like thing on it on his palm that projected light, and it went out towards the camera, with that effect. And I'm like, that is cool. But yeah, it was a phenomenal match. Congratulations to Cedric Alexander for winning. For winning the match. This is probably my favorite one of the, my favorite match of the opener, of the kickoff show. And then Naomi won the first ever WrestleMania Women's Battle Royal that they say, but they forget to mention about the fact that the last one they had, Santino, aka Santina Marella, won the first one. And then we get into the big show. Now you had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 matches in here. Double what NXT TakeOver New Orleans had. Just for the, the title. Actually, no, 11. Because I forgot to include the Undertaker John Cena surprise match in there. Yeah, so we're going to start off Intercontinental Championship triple threat match. Seth Rollins defeated The Miz and Finn Balor to become the new champion. I loved Seth Rollins' White Walker inspired outfit. I mean, that was so cool. I love the stage for this, for WrestleMania. And it's one of the big reasons why I love WrestleMania being in football arenas, for the American football arenas. Just because, they could do these big stadium, like these big entrances to do these grand, elaborate entrances. But it was so simple with Seth's, because it was behind them where the Titantron thing usually is, where that shows WrestleMania. It was designed to look like a Mardi Gras mask. And so with his, it looked like a White Walker, like this, like just looking and stuff. And I'm like, that is freaking awesome. Miz was really cool. Miz, it seemed like at first like they were going to try to turn him face by going, no, I'm going to defend telling the Miz Taraj to hang out in the back, that he's going to defend this, and win it fairly. And then Finn Balor came out with a bunch of the New Orleans LGBT community, because as we know, Balor Club is for everyone. But yeah, the match was great. I love that match. They started out strong, and then and then the next match was Streak versus Title. Charlotte Flair versus Asuka. Now, I think me, like a lot of other people, thought this was going to go one way, with Asuka winning, and no, they pulled the rock out of us. And I'm interested now to see what WWE does now that Asuka and her streak is no more. And I say that because, even during the Cruiserweight Classic, or not the Cruiserweight Classic, the Mixed Match Challenge, it was one of those things that they kept chiming in on and making it part of the stories, when really, like at the Royal Rumble, with her as the first Royal Rumble winner, it didn't make sense to me with her doing that. Because, and them saying, oh, well, if she loses her streak over. Well, no. If you look, she already has a loss. If that Royal Rumble counted and she lost, then she's already lost, because she was eliminated by Eva Marie in NXT in a Royal Rumble match. in a battle royal match, I should say. The like, I'm excited for Charlotte Flair to beat Asuka, but I'm just now curious as to what is going to be Asuka's move going forward. The next match was the United States Championship Fatal 4-Way. I'm going to go through this real quick. Jinder Mahal pinned Rusev. I think there's a lot more to this than we are knowing. I don't know why WWE is trying to squash the Rusev Day chance, because Rusev Day, I mean, just turn Rusev face for crying out loud. The mixed tag team match, what everyone's saying was the best match of the night, and I will agree with that. Kurt Angle and Ronda Rousey defeated Triple H and Stephanie McMahon. Yeah, it was good. Ronda Rousey was phenomenal in there. Definitely held her own and made everyone think, okay, she's gonna be more, she's pretty well adept to coming over here. And I think it's also partially because of the fact that she's coming into WWE style, where it's a much more safer style of wrestling and all that. The SmackDown Tag Team Championship Triple Threat title match came on after that, and that was the Bludgeon Brothers versus the Usos versus the New Day. And I didn't know how this was going to go. I had a feeling of how it was going to go, and I was wrong. Actually, no. I think I was right. I think I thought the Bludgeon Brothers were going to win. I wanted the New Day to win because I'm a big New Day fan. But yeah, the Bludgeon Brothers ended up beating the Usos and the New Day. And yeah, I mean, it was good. It was fun. The Undertaker defeated John Cena with this big hullabaloo thing. Can we all agree that Undertaker can just retire and all that? I mean, I love the guy. I love what he's done. I've been a big Undertaker fan. I love the American Badass phase. But at the same time, the dude is 50 some years old. Like, let him, if he's just saying he wants to do it, fine. But with how this whole storyline went of, oh, John Cena doesn't have a way to WrestleMania, so he's going to go there as a fan, bullshit. Sorry. But I mean, like, really, come on. We all knew it was going to happen and all that. The next match was a tag team match. Daniel Bryan and Shane McMahon versus Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. If Kevin and Sami won, they were reinstated back to SmackDown Live. They did not. So we will see how this goes. There's a way that I hope this goes. And I sort of hoped it went on Monday Night Raw, which I will talk about in a second. But yeah. The Raw Women's Championship match, another good match. Nia Jax defeated Alexa Bliss to become the new WWE Raw Women's Champion. The WWE Championship match was then defended. AJ Styles versus Shinsuke Nakamura. This one, there was so much hype around it, and I feel like it didn't quite live up to expectations. It was still a good match. It just wasn't great. And it was and I feel like it was, I don't know. Shinsuke was great, and this was the beginning of his heel turn. So, excuse me. So, I mean, we're gonna have a great turnaround from this afterwards, and a great stories to come from this. And they hit on it a little bit in SmackDown, which I'll get to in a second, and they will probably hit at it more at the greatest Royal Rumble from Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, in just over 2 weeks. The Raw Tag Team Championship match was then held with Braun Strowman and a kid from the audience who was really the referee's son, Nicholas, defeating Sheamus and Cesaro, also known as The Bar. The match was fun. It was the comedy match. It was the match in between the two main events, the two championship matches. And it was all well and good. And then the match that sort of swerved everyone. the Universal Championship match. Brock Lesnar versus Roman Reigns. I think everyone thought that Roman was going to win. That's because, Brock's on his way out. He's going to the UFC, or he's going back to the UFC and all that. And yeah, things sort of changed, and I was left wondering. And I saw articles going, well, did Lesnar shoot on Roman? Because it ended up with Roman Reigns kicking out of 5 F5s, and then Brock. And this match is tricky because with how things were that day, I was sort of nodding off a little bit, and I actually fell asleep and missed the ender of this match. And I did that through a couple of other matches too, but just for like 20 seconds, and then boom, I'm up again. And those matches were in a way the low matches, but I missed this ending. I actually rewound it and went, wow, that's disappointing. And I say this because I loved Brock Lesnar when I was younger. Before he left and tried to be a football player, and then decided he was going to go into MMA and all that, because of his size, because he's big. He's this beast and stuff, and he attempts moonsaults and doesn't really land them.
What was the best reaction?
And sorry if that auto played, but I mean, yeah, it was an interesting match. It was an interesting thing just because of the fact that you have this part-timer. I mean, that's what I'm fully but call it. He's a part-time, wrestling star, and you have him as the champion. You have him as the face of your company. Now, whether it is, because people are still booing Roman Reigns, whatever, turn him heel. It's, you're not pigeonholed like you are with John Cena, where it's, oh, people love him or hate him. No, you can turn him heel. You've done it in the past. Just turn him heel, have the fans boo him until they start respecting what he does, and then they'll start cheering him again. But I mean, I agree with the promos that Roman's been doing. He's a part-time bitch. Not to call Brock Lesnar a bitch, but I mean, still, it's, he wrestles part-time, and and he's getting paid ridiculous amounts of money for this. And I'm like, and I honestly wonder, is Brock that big of a draw? I don't know. I'll leave that up to you guys. You guys can, message me on Twitter at @thatgregor to tell me if I am right or wrong. The next one is the WWE Raw after WrestleMania. They bill this as the big one and all that. You saw Ronda Rousey confront Stephanie McMahon after she already beat her. And then we get to the first match, which was Alexa Bliss and Mickie James trying to pick on Nia Jax, and get her, and all that. This was mainly the call up for former NXT Women's Champion Ember Moon, and this was just great. This was an awesome, an awesome match, and all that. Great for a debut. It with the call-ups that I've seen so far, I don't think she's going to get lost in the shuffle. Next, we saw Braun Strowman relinquish the titles because of scheduling conflicts with Nicholas, the fact that he's 10 years old. No Way Jose got called up, defeating an unknown or an unnamed jobber. I am a little bit cautious about No Way Jose. I love his wrestling style. I love, everything that he, that he does. It's just, I feel like he could be, it could be, I feel like he could be going the way of, like they say in the article here on CBS.com, of Adam Cole. Or not Adam Cole, Adam Rose. And just being this gimmick and all that stuff. But I don't know. I feel like it's a great. He's gonna be great, and he could do good here. I just hope he doesn't get relinquished to mid card hell. Next, you have The Bar confronting Kurt Angle, basically complaining because they deserve the tag team titles. And so we get the tag team eliminator is what they're calling it. Basically, The Bar are going to be defending the titles. I'm using air quotes there because they're already in the finals of this tag team mini tournament. But where there are other teams in there that the winners of this mini tournament will face them at the Greatest Royal Rumble in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. And the first one we saw was the Revival defeating the Good Brothers, Carl Anderson and Luke Gallows. Now, this is one of those things that, honestly, I was up in the air either way because I love both teams. The Revival because they are just that straight up old school style, wrestlers. You saw Jeff Hardy come back, Mandy Rose defeating Sasha Banks, Paige's retirement, Bobby Lashley returned, which that surprised a lot of people. You saw the Authors of Pain get, come up and advance in the tag team tournaments. They defeated Heath Slater and Rhino. The interesting part with this is because Paul Ellering came up with them, and it seems like they're moving away from him, which is interesting because Akam and Razor are not, at least in NXT, they haven't been really big talkers. They've used Paul Ellering to do all their talking. So I don't know why get rid of that. I mentioned before, or I forgot to mention before, Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn ask for jobs where Kurt Angle actually name drops TNA. He says he's got, he's going to have they're going to have a match and for one spot on there, and he goes, hey, but to lose right here, TNA is hiring. That part, I'm like, wait, what? Because WWE has not admitted, like, basically WWE acts like they don't even exist, that TNA exists. And now granted, they said TNA, not Impact Wrestling, which is what they're called now, but still, that's like, okay, let's let's see how this is gonna go. Matt Hardy and Bray Wyatt defeat Titus Worldwide in the Tag Team Eliminator. That was pretty cool to see just how well Matt Hardy and Bray Wyatt gel together. Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn fight to a double countout with a Raw contract on the line. That one was so good. That match was like, that showed the heart and stuff. You saw Matt, Jeff, and Bray meet up, and all that. Seth Rollins, Finn Balor, and Jeff Hardy defeated Miz and the Miztourage via pinfall. All this really good. I mean, living up to the Raw after WrestleMania thing. I thought this article would have. This would have all this stuff. So the next one was SmackDown, and SmackDown was a little less impressive. You did have the announcement that Paige is the new the new SmackDown general manager, which was cool, great. I mean, well deserved. And the you saw the Usos and the New Day fight for the number one, or for the tag team, for the number one contendership for the tag team titles. And it's interesting with how some of these titles are going, because they've already said that 7 titles will be defended at the Greatest Royal Rumble. With what is it? It's basically it's all the men's titles. The only 2 titles that are on from the main shows that aren't going to be defended are the Raw Raw and SmackDown Women's Tag Team Championship, or Raw and SmackDown Women's Championships. And so it's like with some of these, they're like, oh, they're setting up for Backlash. And I'm like, well, wait, what about? And like with some of these, I'm like, well, what about at Greatest Royal Rumble? And all that. But yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. You saw Carmella cash in her Money in the Bank briefcase, and honestly, in a great move, because it was much like Edge cashing in, the first time, where and if you listen to the ENC Pod of Awesomeness, he talks about how that was his plan. He's a heel, so when is the heel going to cash in a guaranteed title shot? Well, after the champion just put in a hell of a match. So that's what he did. And so she did the same thing. She won. But yeah, I mean, it was okay. I was expecting more call-ups, in all honesty, because really you only got the Iconics, formerly known as the Iconic Duo of Peyton Royce and Billie Kay, on the SmackDown side. Everything, like, I was expecting more. And that's actually leading to a bit of news that I'm going to end on. And that is that WWE is reportedly debating on whether or not to bring up an NXT superstar. Now, the per report from, this is coming from SE Scoops, by the way. Per report from Dave Meltzer of F4W Online, also the Wrestling Observer. Multiple sources note that WWE is debating whether or not to call up NXT star Velveteen Dream. They're pretty sure that that people who are going to get the call up is, as rumors are, the now former NXT champion Andrade Cien Almas and Drew McIntyre. Andrade Almas because of the fact that he dropped the title, and Drew McIntyre because it seems like NXT wasn't going to be that long for him in there because he's in phenomenal shape and all that. Oh, excuse me. But no, he's in phenomenal shape. It was just a bicep tear, I believe, in NXT TakeOver War Games that pulled him away. Now Velveteen Dream, for those of you guys who don't know, his real name is Patrick Clark. He was on the last season of Tough Enough. And he was in that phenomenal match to kick off NXT TakeOver New Orleans. And I can see the hesitation because it makes sense for Andrade Almas and Drew McIntyre because they both have Drew McIntyre has all the history he already has with the WWE, and plus he maintained and matured outside. We know after he got fired. But Andrade, he was big in Mexico, big Mexican wrestler. And but Velveteen Dream, I think he is straight up a a product of trying to look up. There we go. He is a product of the WWE. And he's young. He's only 22 years old. And I mean, he's been trained by a few other places, but I mean, by Maryland Championship Wrestling, I'm looking at his Wikipedia page, and then Combat Zone Wrestling. I mean, he's only been wrestling for 4 years, and there's already talks of a call up to the bigs, to WWE and all that. I say if it seems like he is good enough, bring him up. I mean, you can only make your product better. But yeah, that is going to do it for me here. If you like what I am doing here, leave me a comment. Just tell me, hey, talk about this more, and I will do it. I will talk about this more. I'm gonna do this sporadically, just because I don't feel like I have enough here to do weekly shows. But yeah, I've been Gregor Sprague. You can find me on the Else Nerds show that records about every Thursday. This week we're doing it on Wednesday because of my work schedule. But yeah, you can find that over at elsenerds.com. And yeah, thank you. And also you can find me on that Gregor on Twitter and twitch.tv/thatgregor. And I'll see you later.